Hi guys, and welcome to your first ever Nerdust tutorial. So, cloaks. Cloaks are one of those things that look simple, they look easy, but then they absolutely punish you with every single brushstroke. Most tutorials will tell you to start in the midtones and then work your way up to the highlights and down to the shadows, but I don't do that. I like to start with the darkest shadows and then build my cloak out of the darkness. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to paint your cloaks using my shadow first method, where to place your shadows, how to build smooth fabric highlights, and how to keep cloaks looking soft, flowy, and readable. So grab your paintbrush, grab your wet palette, and let's paint a cloak the Nerdess way. So the first thing I want to start off with is determining where our shadows are going to go. So I'm going to use this model and then a couple different pieces of clothing fabric to kind of give you an idea of things. So as you can see on this model here, you can see where the recesses are and where the natural shadows would be. Our darkest shadows are going to be here up the sides where the light is difficult to reach. So if I turn this model a little bit, you can see that these recesses, these are the farthest places down, and they still get just a little bit of light in the bottom, and that's because this fabric is still gonna reflect light through there. And to show you this, I'm going to take a couple of different pieces of fabric. So this is just a pair of pants. These are going to be a nylon and spandex blend of pants. So what I'm showing you here is you can see in the light, when I crinkle this up, you can see that down through here, where you would think that the darkest shadows are going to be, light still reflects off of that surface. Your darkest shadows are right here through the corner and up the sides. Your highest highlights are up through here, but you can see that you still get a bit of a highlight right down here in this recess. It's just not quite as bright as up here. The second fabric I'm going to show you is this silky, satiny kind of fabric. You'll get the same kind of thing, but this is a little bit more reflective. So when we take it, you can see that you still get your shadows right through where we fold, but right down here in the lowest part, you still get a bit of light. You still get a little bit of a reflection. This is a much more reflective fabric, but it still shows the same point. You can see when I turn the fabric, the light still follows right into that hollow, and you can see where the darkest portions are. They're not down at the bottom like you would expect. This is yet another type of fabric. It's a cotton and polyester blend fabric. This is an old pair of scrubs, actually. And this is still going to illustrate yet the same point. So we're going to take it, we're going to crinkle it up like it be billowing fabric, and you can see straight through these sides down here in the hollow is where your darkest shadows are. But when you get down here all the way to the bottom, it still reflects light. But I think this one is the best the best picture to show you, because you can see that up through here are the highest of the highlights, the biggest, brightest lights. But down through here, you can still see that there is light that is still penetrating down deep there, but it's much darker. It's more of a mid-tone rather than a shadow light or a highlight. So now that we've gone over that, we can actually get started with the painting. You want to make sure you're using a nice sharp-tipped Kolinsky sable brush. I really, really love these Foxbite brushes. They've got amazing Kolinsky sable brushes, and they are just fantastic. You can see the tip on that thing is so sharp, and they hold paint so nicely, and everything just flows out of them beautifully. You're going to want to have your wet palette. I enjoy my Red Grass Games palette. This is the big Sigmar XL palette, and then your paint cup full of water and your paint. Now, like I said, we're going to start with our deepest shadows. We're going to start with our darkest color and work our way up. I have tried to paint starting at midtone or at the midtones and working my way up and down. I have tried to start at the highlights and work my way all the way down to shadows, and none of it works for me. I don't like it. If you like it, feel free to use that. That is your choice. It's whatever works for you. This hobby is not for me to tell you how to do it. This is just another way for me to show you. With that being said, I'm painting a red cloak on this model, so I'm starting off with evil red. I do not start with a black base coat for anything but black cloaks or gray. You want to start with something that is going to give you a lot more depth of color to everything, so I like to start with colors that complement. So I'm doing a red cloak, so I'm going to do with a deep purple shadow color. And I'm going to use all Vallejo game colors for this model. So now we're going to work on thinning our paints. We want this at a layer consistency. So we don't want this super thin. We don't want this super thick. Right out of the bottle is much too thick. It's a bit gloopy. You see how it beads up on the paintbrush. We need it to flow off the paintbrush a lot nicer than this. So we are going to thin our paints down to where they are a layer consistency, which is going to give us about here. It's going to be, for the Vallejo colors, I'd say about 50-50, maybe a little bit heavier on the paint side. It just depends on how well it comes out. But this is what you're going to want to get. And I've got painted nails, so you're not going to be able to see this very good, I don't think. But let's see. There we go. So you want it to glide nice and smooth right off the tip of your brush. So I'm just going to mix up just a little bit more of this on the palette so I have more than enough to get through this cloak. And now we're just going to go through and we're going to paint this all over. Now this may take up to 2 or 3 layers just to get full coverage, and that is okay. This is going to give you a nice smooth base coat. Some of your colors may get to full opacity sooner than others. Some of them are just a little bit more difficult to work with. Your reds, yellows, and oranges tend to be a little bit less opaque starting out, so you have to work them up a little bit more. Now for the base coat, I like to load my brush up nice and heavy. You don't have to do that, and I don't recommend it after the base coat. And once we get this all painted up, you're not even going to notice that this is a purple base coat, that you're using a deep purple for all of your shadow colors. Okay, now we're going to let this completely dry. I am not going to do any wet blending on this model. That will be for a future video. This video, we are going to focus on layers and glazing. Okay, so now that we're all nice and dry, we're going to move up to our next color. This is going to be our kind of first mid-tone color, if you will. We're going to go in with Nocturnal Red from Vallejo. This is also going to be at a layer consistency. So remember earlier when I showed you all the different fabrics, and you can still see it a little bit on this here, where your light is catching in these lower recesses. We're going to make sure that we get some of this color in those lower recesses, but we're going to avoid these side areas here. So this is going to go on the top and then down in the lowest recesses where the light is still hitting. And in person, you can see where this light is still hitting very easily. It might be a little bit more difficult to see on the camera. We're going to take this and we're just going to go right down the very bottom. So here we're going to catch all of this right up here. And this connects right in through here. And you want to make sure your paint is gliding off the paintbrush nice and easily. If you've got too much paint, just rinse it out and come back in. So we're going to come up and follow this here, which also connects up here. You want to make sure your shapes are connecting where they do so that you don't have this disjointedness between the different areas. And this is another color that you might have to come in with, you know, more than one layer. So we see how this nice big flat part here, this is all going to catch light. But you can see where it starts to steep up right here where your shadow is going to be. That might be difficult for you to see right through here. And see, we messed up. We got a little bit there, so we just rinse our brush, dab it off a bit. Then you can come in and rub that, and it'll just erase it like it never happened. I'm going to come in with a dry brush and kind of dab some of this away just to help us along. Because if we get our paint right there where it's nice and wet, it's just going to spread. It's not going to stay where we put it, and we don't want it to spread. Because you can see right through here, there's a bit of a recess, and right through here, and we want to make sure that those stay in shadow. So we're going to catch right here. And make sure that you're pulling the paintbrush back to you. Don't do this back and forth stuff when you're bringing it back and forth, because then you get these weird lines. Just pull in one direction. It's much easier to draw straight lines pulling towards you. Now, if you get into a spot like I am right here, and it's easier to push away from you, make sure you're just careful. But most of the time I say to just pull backwards. There are always exceptions to the rule. And, you know, rules are there to be broken occasionally. So we can see that we have this recess right next to it, but we're going to come right here because light would hit right there. And we're going to get that right there. This very well may be the highest highlight that some of these areas get. So I didn't bring that one up quite high enough. So we're going to reinforce right there. We're going to bring this down just a little here. You can see where this cape is trying to come down here. So we are going to do like this and come down just a little bit more. Just like that. And then you have just this little thin area right here. We're going to take this and we're going to go right down the middle there. And you can already start to see things come together. In some of these areas, it looks like our line is just a little bit too sharp here. So I want to go through and I want to blur that line a little bit. So I'm going to take about 50-50 of our shadow color and our first highlight and mix that up so that we can blend that line just a little bit. And we want to make sure it's the right consistency. So now we're just going to take it and we're going to come through and we're going to blend that line a little bit. You don't want to take it too low and you don't want to take it too high. Just come through and make it nice and soft. And if you add enough transitions between each of your colors, you don't have to worry about glazing here later. I like to try to do a lot of transitions so that I don't have to do a lot of glazing. Occasionally, there's still a fair amount of glazing to be done, but if you have enough in there, your eye doesn't see any of those messier areas. Your eye just fills in the blanks. And there we go. It's a little bit smoother. And now we're going to move in with our next highlight. We're going to take Gory Red. Now this is going to be just a little bit of a jump up in value. It's not going to be that much, so you can see that there's, whoop, there we go. You can see that I put my finger right in it. There's not a huge difference in the color. So this one we're not going to have to do as much of a transition layer with. This one might just work out to be our next highlight easily. Again, we're going to go in with a layer consistency and we're going to work our way in. Now this is not going to go into our deepest recesses. We are just going to work on our topmost highlights. Oh, see, that was still wet over there. I put my finger on it. Make sure you're working with adequately thinned paints, otherwise you'll wind up with nasty little lines in your work. We don't want that. We want things to be beautifully smooth. Again, with some of these folds, you want to make sure you follow the model. You want to make sure you connect these lines. Now it looks like it's a pretty big jump right here, and it might be. So we're going to wait until this dries and have a good look and see if we need to do a transition layer. But we're working up in smaller and smaller sections each time we go up in color. You want to make sure that you can still see the previous color beneath. Not beneath the paint job, but around the edges of the next color, so that you get that gradient effect. See how that nice sharp tip comes into play? So I'm not a big fan. There's too much of a jump in this color, so I am gonna go back through and I'm going to blend out that color just a little bit. So I'm gonna take about a 50-50 mix again of the two colors that I just had. The previous shadow color or mid-tone color and this one. And then here, I'm gonna come in with this 50-50 mix and enforce this highlight just a little bit because I want it just a little bit brighter than it is. This one I'm gonna darken a little bit because it's a little bit too bright. This is a big game of push and pull a lot of times. You gotta push your colors up higher and then pull them back a little bit if they go just a bit too bright. And it's okay to play back and forth with them. It's all part of the process. And some of these we're gonna move into a bit of a glaze consistency because we don't want it quite layer. We don't want it to fully cover. We're just trying to add a hint of color to close that gap between the two colors so that it's not such a harsh transition. So we're just gonna glaze it in. That is gonna be, when you're glazing, we're gonna be using a much more thin consistency, much more watery. We're going to be about 75-ish, 80% water. Maybe 70. But we're going to be looking at something more like that for some of our glazing. It's not going to have full opacity. It's going to be much easier to see through, and it's just going to deposit some color. You can still see the color of my polish underneath it, and it's not so opaque. But now you can see we've got much easier transitions. They're much prettier, except right here. We're going to come in and fix that. It's a little bit harsh. So we're going to glaze in with this 50-50 of the dark. See how thin that is? You can still see the color of the palette underneath it. We're going to take off a lot of that paint, dab it off. And we're just going to kind of wash it in there. Now, this is perfectly acceptable. You can stop here. If you're looking for a little bit more grim dark or something that's not quite as shiny, this is a good stopping point. You don't have to take it any farther. I like mine to be a little crisper, a little cleaner, less grim dark, and a little bit more shiny kind of feeling. So I am going to jump up the brightness even farther, and we're going to take Scarlet Blood this time. This is going to be a much, much larger jump in brightness. So this is actually going to get mixed 50-50 with the previous color, and then we still might have to back down a little bit in the transitions. Now, the hard part about red is going all the way up in color. If you take it too far, you're going to take it from looking like red to looking like orange. So you don't want to go too high in your brightness. This is nearly a dark orangey color. So we're going to be taking it quite far. If you look at the color difference, it has, get focused. It has more orangey hues to it than the previous colors. But that's going to be okay because we're going to mix it back with the gory red from the previous layer and kind of bring those colors a little bit closer together. There we go. So you can see it's quite a bit closer together in color. And now this is going to go just on our most raised edges. We are not going to put this in any of our shadow areas or any of our mid-tone areas. This is going to go in a nice thin area. You don't want this to go too far. This is just our highest highlight. It goes in the smallest area, especially since you might need a little bit of room to blend this together. We aren't even going to touch this farthest edge. It's just a teensy tiny bit too bright. So we're going to blend out our edges just a little bit so that it blends together a little bit more seamlessly. So we're going to take just a little bit more. We're going to blend it with the previous color just a bit more. We might even take just a tad of our other color, our next darkest color. There we go. We're going to blend this through very, very lightly. And we're actually going to make this more of a glaze consistency as well. Going to thin it down nice and plenty. We're going to wipe off the excess on the brush or on the paper towel so that we don't get any pooling, and then we're just going to come through and hit these edges of where it came together. I'm just gonna glaze that in. It's gonna look a little bit like you're not doing much of anything. You are. It might take a couple of passes, but you're blending this through very slowly so that you don't have harsh jumps. And there you have it. We could even take this up just a tad bit higher if we wanted to, but I think I'm happy with that. Thank you guys so much for painting along with us tonight. I really hope that you guys got something that you can use in your own miniature painting. If you liked this video, then keep your eyes out because we have plenty more videos like this coming in the near future. If you're interested in seeing our entire gallery, getting some D&D miniatures printed, some bits for your Warhammer or any terrain pieces, or even just getting a commission, you can visit us at nerdustminiatures.com. Until next time, we'll see you later.